you probably got an Everbridge notice. Is that what you got, Barbara?
I know,
Yeah.
just a phone call.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
a
David.
text.
And text. He did it text and
Camden
email.
just walked out of my office to do you probably got an Everbridge notice. Is that what you got, Barbara?
I don't know what I got.
That's what I got, David.
I got one on my phone and I think the home phone was ringing a minute ago. I'm wondering if that's what it was, but I'm gonna go tell my wife to be aware of it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I got something on the cell phone too.
Was it a text, Barbara?
Yes, I got a text on the cell phone and I got a call on the home phone.
On the home phone. Yeah, that's how he set it up.
That's nice to know they work. It's nice to know that's the first call I've had today that's not spam.
By the way, is there a rule or anything on this that we need to be on video?
I was told that.
That we need to be on video?
Yeah,
You do not have to be on video. You could be audio only.
There you go, Barbara.
But bye. It is nice if you are on video. It's nice, but you don't have to be.
seen me. You've seen me. How can you say that?
It is nice.
Wasn't that like Stacy's rule or something like that?
I think it was Brad who laid down the laws.
I just remember Stacy had something to say about it.
I might be a little of both tonight, so.
Oh, here
I'm
she
back.
is.
Vendeline, did you get that video?
Yes, I did.
Comments? All right. We'll have you do that last after
Okay.
a few comments are read in. All right.
Okay.
Terlin probably let you know.
Yes, yeah. I got the video and I tested it, so it should all work fine.
Okay.
As long as we're just waiting, I'm just curious what that shirt is in the background there for Sherilyn.
That is an inaugural Real Monarchs jersey.
Oh, I thought maybe it was your personal basketball jersey or something.
No, not that one. My husband works with Real Salt Lake, so that's their first, the jersey from the first season.
Fancy. I'm just curious.
Nope. No, mine's upstairs.
Yours is in a different room. Yeah, you said not that one, and I interpreted that to mean, yeah, she's got hers other places.
I do have my college jersey hanging up in the upstairs office.
Where'd you play?
UVU.
Oh,
Okay, do we have all council members on? Let me just do a little. Councilmember Christiansen, Shelton, Barnes. Okay. All right. Got 14 people in the group and it is 7 o'clock. So we're going to get started. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you to the American Fork City Council regular session. It is April 28th of the year 2020. Pursuant to the COVID-19 federal guidelines, this meeting will be conducted electronically. You may watch the meeting live stream at the above mentioned link. Public comments can be emailed into the link provided before you prior to 5 p.m. the day of the meeting, and they will be read in by the city recorder. I would like to just state openly that the council and staff is in various places in their homes, offices, wherever they might be. I am currently sitting in the mayor's office. This has become the new normal, and we can't wait to meet together and be amongst each other as days of old. So, but we would like to welcome you again to this meeting. We have an agenda that we will follow. It's been posted in various places, and we'll follow the agenda as outlined. We will first have a pledge of allegiance, which I will stand and I will say that pledge of allegiance. I would invite others to stand and follow, at least listen to me. And then we will have an invocation by Councilmember Shelton, and after which I will conduct the roll call. If everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's say the prayer. Oh, thanks.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this opportunity that we have to gather together electronically and be able to conduct the business of the city. Father, we're grateful for the technological advances and the ability that we have that during such times like we are experiencing now, that we can still be able to gather and be able to still conduct the business of the city, to be able to be of benefit to our residents. We're grateful, Father, for those who are on the front lines and continue to fight the coronavirus and be able to provide safety for us as the general public. Father, we're thankful for the blessings we've had in our city to be able to have handled the issues that are currently before us in a manner that has allowed us to, for the most part, be safe and be able to not be overwhelmed. We're thankful, Father, for thy guiding hand, and we ask that as we conduct business tonight that we'll be able to have that with us. We also ask that thou be with our first responders and those who are suffering from the effects of the virus, whether it be physically, emotionally, or financially, that they may be able to find the resources and the comfort that they need to be able to have the strength to pull through this. We ask, Father, that thy mercy be upon us and that we may be able to overcome the challenges that we currently face. And these things we ask and pray for. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you for that prayer, Councilmember Shelton. I will now conduct the roll call. Councilmember Christiansen,
Here.
Councilmember Shelton,
Here.
Councilmember Barnes,
Here.
Councilmember Carroll. Councilmember Carroll, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh, I'm like, it's not working. Okay. I wasn't even muted. I don't know what happened.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Okay, thank you for being here. We will now move on to item number 2, and that is our public comment period. And we have, I think, 4 or 5, and then we do have a video that we were going to present. And so I'm going to turn the time over to our city recorder, Terry Lurker, to read in public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. The first comment we have is from Heidi Rodeback, the chair of the American Fork Library Board of Trustees. She states, "Dear Mayor and members of the City Council, these are extraordinary times. My son is looking forward to Thursday when the United States Air Force will send the F-35 demo team on a multi-city flyover throughout Utah to say thank you to the medical workers, first responders, and all others who are responding to the threat of COVID-19. Last month, American Fork City's finest escorted the Shelley Elementary teachers in a parade down the streets of our neighborhood, sirens screaming, and loudspeakers blaring to give the children something to come out of their houses and cheer about. I understand you did this for each of our elementary school neighborhoods. Thank you for responding to the crisis so generously and creatively. This is an important coming together for American Fork. Last Saturday afternoon, the American Fork Library Board of Trustees met to review plans for the full reopening of the library. It is too soon to say when this will take place, but it is not too soon to plan. I wish to commend the industry and foresight of our library director, Cassandra Crane. There are 1,000 decisions to be made, such as which materials are safe to check out, how long books should remain in quarantine, whether computers can be used, who has to wear masks, and so on and so forth. Working in consultation with the board, the staff, and the state library, Cassandra has anticipated all these decisions and formulated a rational plan. We are in good hands. I thought you would be interested in a snapshot of figures from the past month, our first month of social distancing. For the period from March 14th to April 12th, the library checked out 9,091 items, double our usual numbers. The next week, nearly 4,500 more items were placed on hold and delivered via curbside pickup by our librarians. Since then, we have consistently had 1,000 books placed on hold each week. At present, 20,000 items are checked out, which accounts for a quarter of our entire library collection. During these extraordinary times, our patrons are using the library more than ever. Thank you for keeping the library open to provide this vital service. My daughter Meg, who was furloughed in California, came home to wait out the duration with us. Last week, she flew back to keep a medical appointment. While there, she took a walk to her neighborhood library, only to find it locked and shuttered. We feel so fortunate to be able to keep our library going, even at reduced hours in American Fork. Thank you for this and for all you're doing to keep our community going. You're making a meaningful difference. Yours, Heidi Rodeback. The next 3 items I will read pertain to action item number 2. Mike Hathorn has written, can the moratorium be tied to construction permits rather than plan submissions? Jake Haran, White Horse Developers, has written, to the Mayor and City Council of American Fork City. Thank you for giving us the time to address the action item regarding a moratorium on land use in the TOD area. As you know, we have worked with the city for several years in this area, and we would like to address some of our concerns. We have been working with the city for some time now, installing much of the infrastructure noted in the Horrocks report. To date, we have installed a portion of the 30-inch water line along 900 West, as well as a portion of the 20-inch culinary main line in 200 South. We have done so anticipating future plat approvals and also reimbursement from the city for such system improvements. We understand the concern the city has with the amount of growth projected to happen in the next couple of years and the need to match it with the growth. We are committed to working with the city and helping with this growth. An example is that Keystone and White Horse Developers have specially installed 12,300 cubic feet of capacity over the last year to help with this infrastructure. Additionally, we have spent over $1 million in sewer improvements to service this area while patiently waiting to be paid close to $700,000 in city reimbursements, some of which is associated to the improvements noted in the report. We would ask the City Council to not punish those of us who are doing what it takes to solve these issues with the moratorium. We feel it would be an undue hardship should this moratorium stall out the reimbursements of system improvements and delay approvals for subdivisions that have already been submitted with an application. As the city works through these issues, we would ask the city to consider placing a moratorium on new development applications only. We feel that it is an undue hardship upon developers to be delayed in reimbursement of system improvements and, more importantly, to be delayed in approvals for subdivisions that have already been submitted to the city. If the city is not willing to consider a moratorium only on new applications, we would at least ask that there be some consideration made towards projects that have included improvements to infrastructure that ultimately help solve the city's capacity to accommodate such growth noted in the report. Thank you for your time on this matter. Sincerely, Jake Haran. Ted Franson sent in. I hope this email gets to you tonight, the 20th of April. I understand that the City Council is considering a moratorium on development in the TOD zone. I guess the principal comment I have is how disappointed I am. The city of American Fork has been playing catch up from day one with issues regarding the TOD zone. As a landowner in the TOD, I have partnered with the developer who has put significant time and money into development planning and installing infrastructure in the TOD while working with city officials. To have the city come back now and say, oops, we were not ready to let development move forward is so disappointing. I would hope that developers who have submitted and received preliminary approvals from the city would be allowed to move forward with development and be grandfathered in while the city gets caught up with economic and market forces. Those are the written comments I have received, and now we just have the video from Grant Lefgren.
Hello, my name is Grant Lefgren. I'm with Keystone and Whitehorse. Thank you for giving me about 2 minutes to address you as a city council. I understand the city's concerned with the amount of growth that has been happening and will happen over the next couple of years. We've also made improvements, system improvements to the area in the TOD, about $700,000, which we are still waiting for reimbursement from the city. The reason that I wanted to get in front of City Council is that we're just asking that you make some consideration that doesn't punish those of us who are doing what it takes to solve many of the issues noted in the report of the moratorium. Keystone and Whitehorse has specifically installed over 12,000 cubic feet of capacity over the last year in the water system, and we feel that it would be an undue hardship if this moratorium were to stall out the reimbursement of our system improvements, as well as some of the projects that we have pending for approval. As the city works through these issues, we would ask that the City Council make consideration that the moratorium be only on new development applications only. If the city is not willing to consider a moratorium on only new projects, we would ask that the City Council take into consideration some of these projects that actually include the improvements for the water system. We feel that there are several projects within the TOD area which would include these improvements that would help solve the problem, and so putting a moratorium on everything we feel is a little bit too broad of an approach. Again, we know how difficult these decisions can be, but we thank you for your time and thank you for your consideration.
All right. That it, Tara Lynn?
That's all we had.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item number 3, our city administrator report. David.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things to report. Of significance is the fact that today Governor Herbert announced that the state of Utah would be moving from the red or the critical stage to the orange level. It reduces some of the social distancing requirements, but keeps many others. And with that, we will be evaluating some of our services that we provide to the citizens and looking at what the next steps will be for the city as we transition from the position we've been in at this point under the red kind of regulations into the orange regulations. And so we will be looking at that with our different departments and evaluating what our next steps need to be. So wanted to bring that up. Governor Herbert was very clear that moving to this new phase does not mean we go back to business as normal, business as usual. It clearly he stated that wearing masks in public is a requirement, is something that they are asking the residents of Utah to do, to continue to social distance. And so there still will be requirements, still will be things that we need to adhere to as part of the Utah plan. So just wanted to bring that up. I would also like to mention to the council and to our citizens that we do have a major water leak in the upper portion of our water system. which may cause some outages depending on what part of the city that you live in. Our crews are working quickly on repairing that major water leak. And it is anticipated that for a short period, some residents may experience a loss in culinary water service. And just wanted to bring that up. More information is on our social media page on Facebook and also on the website. So just wanted to bring that up as well. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you for that report. We'll now move on to the council reports, and I'll start with Councilmember Christiansen.
Well, I echo the sentiments there. I'm excited to see progress, noting a few things that were not mentioned in Heidi Rodeback's report. Between 300 and 500 bags of books are circulated each week for people to pick up at the library. And every Tuesday, 1,000 to 1,250 books are returned. Those are put in quarantine for several days and then put back on the shelf when it's considered safe. They upload 2 story times a week and have started adding other videos, including a virtual Lego club. And they have plans for the library to move to the next stage whenever it becomes possible, and taking into consideration different steps to make things safe for everybody.
Okay. Thank you for that report, Councilmember Christiansen. Councilmember Shelton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Real quick, I sent an email out to the council and administration, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about our water fund. We talked a lot about that last time, and there was some information that I came across that Anna had provided to add clarity about the water fund and the secondary fund. And so just wanted to thank her for her reporting and what she had done there to help clarify that. I think that having visuals is a big way to help communicate, and hope that we can continue that forward. I was also thinking kind of along the same lines as Heidi's comments, is all the technology improvements that we have made in the city that have really helped us out in leading up to this. And just thinking about some of those that we've done over, at least that I'm aware of, over the last 8 years, is the phone system upgrades, going to a YouTube situation where we did start streaming live and had that all ready to go. Having seamless docs in place that allow us as a city to be able to still get requisitions and things of that nature done without having to pass paper back and forth. The business licenses being online, the burn permits being online, and now utilizing Zoom, and I'm sure there's many more. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to be a part of that, and I hope that we keep that in mind as we move forward and look for those efficiencies that technology can add. As far as the council assignments go, the 2 that I have to report on, one, just need to get some feedback from the council. I sent out an email, but didn't get much response back, and so thought maybe this would be the right forum for it. We opened up the dump where we allowed people to be able to go in, and the city kind of picked up the tab for them being able to dump to limit the exposure of employees and passing things back and forth. Those cost estimates of what we've racked up have been emailed out, and my personal feeling is, especially with the governor going to more of an orange level, is that the right one, David, that you had said, orange versus red, or whatever color code we're on, the 1 degree up? Maybe that's the right time for us to be able to go back to just using our punch passes again. But wanted to see what the feedback of the council would be there.
I would concur with that. I think, with the counters opening, yes, there'll be social distancing, but doors will be open. People will have, much like you do at Home Depot. So they'll be able to come in, but we would hope that they would still go online and apply and receive their dump pass online. But I think that's the appropriate time, which would be, David, when are we looking to do that? Is it May 1st?
I would say it's One more time, say that one more time. With a question.
We're talking about having people actually have a physical dump pass as opposed to just having a photo ID or proof of residency to get into the dump.
Yeah, May 1st would be that time, probably first part of next week.
Yeah.
And
We'll coordinate that through social media as well, Councilman Shelton, and
Yeah.
all other means.
That'd
If
be good.
that's how the other council feels about it, the rest of the council.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
You know, it's been encouraging. I mean, this trash is going somewhere. There's sure been a lot of activity at the dump. I don't think they've ever seen it so busy. So with what time people have had, extra time, but it's certainly brought the mindset on and let's clean things up, which is a great thing right now.
I agree.
I agree.
Yes, good idea.
Sorry, Rob, I saw your note and I had a couple of questions and I should have gotten a hold of you to answer, to ask those questions. But yeah, I'm in favor of,
Okay.
let's go
Just wanna
back to
make sure, I
the,
think it's somewhat timely if we can coordinate that on the May 1st here in a couple of days. So I'll just let the district know that we'll plan on that May 1st day to go back, and then maybe in those social media posts like you talked about, Mayor, just referencing how they can go online and how to do that, or the link that's available there for them.
Great.
The other item on that is they have doubled their numbers as you took a look at it, and that's something we need to look at long term as a district, is how we can be able to efficiently but still in a fair manner get people through there. It's amazing how many people have only certain items that they claim are in their car, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you find all the other stuff that's involved in there too. So it's a fine game, but we're trying to take a page out of Chick-fil-A's drive-through efficiencies and see if there's maybe some technology we can leverage that way and make it a little quicker. The only other item I had from council assignments is the dispatch has sent out an interlocal agreement. Terry Lynn, I believe you should have got an email on that. And hopefully that's made it over to Sherilyn for review on the legal side. They are asking us in the next month to be able to look to vote on that. There's two major issues that I saw when I looked at the draft. One is it allows PG to officially become a member of the agency, where right now they're only a contracted entity. So that would give them a seat at the board. And then the other thing that they're changing in this one is all future agencies that come on board would not be required to go to city councils for approval. They would only be approved at the dispatch board level. And so those are the two things I think we ought to probably consider and look at. But I just want to make sure that staff had those documents, or if they need me to get those and pass them on, I'm happy to.
Councilman Shelton, I did receive that.
We have that on our next council agenda.
Okay,
So yeah,
awesome.
Thank you for sending those.
That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that report. Councilmember Barnes.
nothing to report, just glad to be here. Cemetery committee will probably meet next week and have some discussion, but nothing to report on it.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Carroll.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. I have nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
All right, you guys are quiet tonight. For the mayor's report, I would like to just personally thank Derek. Derek Reichert, he has taken on a tremendous responsibility serving our seniors, not only just a meal, but serving hope that goes along with that, and the staff that he's brought with him. And I drop in there occasionally just to kind of see what's going on. More or less, it's just kind of neat to see. It's very inspiring. And we've used some of our crossing guards there and other staff members. And one of the ladies that was there, and she was preparing meals and they were giving them out, she says that for some of the people that come through, they get all dressed up. They come and put on their makeup just for that occasion, just to get out, to get the meal and to have a little bit of interaction with people. And then I'm not sure if they take little drives. But that seems to be one of the more important things they do during the day. We are currently feeding almost double what we would normally feed. On a Friday, we're feeding at about 175. Derek says he's trying to get a goal of 200, which would be unheard of. During the week, it would be common to serve about 40 or 50, and we're now at over 100. So there's been a lot of good participation from Chick-fil-A and other partners that have brought just more than just the meal. They're taking fresh produce. We still have toilet paper that has been through the drive that they've been able to have as they have needed it. And I just feel really good about the manner in which Derek is running that operation, and I want him to know that, and all his good help that he has there. We currently have about 4 marriages that will take place in our city hall. One of them, and this is still to be determined, but they're working it out, but it's a resident of American Fork who wants to marry her sweetheart, who is currently stationed in the Middle East. And it could be a virtual wedding, to be determined, but that is certainly something they're working towards. But so City Hall is vacant most of the time, but it's going to get a little bit of use. And then we'll have to determine, with the governor's directives on when the chambers will be filled and they'll be back to where they were. But currently, there is a purpose to City Hall, and I've heard that it's others have just felt like it was just a good thing that it's been offered. And so that is the mayor's report. We will now move on to the common consent agenda, consisting of 5 items. If you scroll up, Tara Lynn noted there was 1 change on the minutes. Do you want to explain that change again, Tara Lynn?
Yes, we just had a correction on the name that Councilmember Christiansen submitted on the prayer. So it's just 1 name change.
Okay. All right. Anybody have questions on our common consent agenda?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the common consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Shelton and a second by Councilmember Taylor to approve the common consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 1 on action items is ratification of city payments from the date of October 8th, 2020 to April 21st, 2020, and approval of purchase requests over $25,000. Does anybody have questions? I'm sure that Anna could answer any of those details.
Just a note, I think you said October the 8th. but
Did
I'm
I
sure
say
you
October?
Huh?
Okay. Did I say October?
I think you did.
Okay, well, that's getting close to hunting season, so
Yeah.
so April 8th, 2020 to April 21st,
Right.
2020. Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve those payments.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Barnes, and second by Councilmember Shelton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Item number 2 is a review and action on adoption of an ordinance establishing a temporary land use regulation prohibiting the filing of new development applications and any subdivision approvals for land south of State Road 145, Pioneer Crossing, and southwest of Interstate 15, I-15. I would like to just, if I might, just read a statement prior to this. With ever increasing intensity, American Fork City has experienced a rapid increase in development south of I-15, and it is anticipated that growth will continue at this rapid rate. Anticipating this growth, the city has regularly calculated and reviewed hydraulic models to ensure that the city has the capacity with the culinary water system to supply service to all current users and future development. Although the city has ample water resources, including wells, springs, and storage facilities to provide current users with adequate supply, the existing water infrastructure will not support additional growth in the south part of the city due to a restriction in the piping system to that area. The limited pipe sizing does not affect current connections. Adding additional development, if allowed, before the pipelines are upsized, would result in velocities in the water lines exceeding established engineering design standards adopted by the Utah Division of Drinking Water and the city, and will create a pressure differential between normal operation and peak demands greater than recommended by the city engineer and the city's water system consultant, Oric Engineering. Since the city knew that the growth in the southern area would place significant demands on the existing culinary water infrastructure, the city has worked to model and design a system of upsizing water lines necessary to adequately support recent and future growth. The completion of design and the pending construction of those lines will require significant financial resources. The city has been in the process of securing these financial resources in cooperation with strategic partners. However, due to the recent COVID-19 pandemic, these efforts have become increasingly uncertain. It is the intent of the city to continue its efforts in securing the necessary funds to construct the required infrastructure. However, the current unanticipated economic situation has made those efforts more difficult. As a result, it is necessary to temporarily halt future land use and development approvals, as well as future subdivisions approvals south of I-15. It is unclear how long this pause will continue, but we want to stress that the city is making every effort to secure the necessary funding for the improvements to the city's culinary water infrastructure. Upon securing funding sources, the temporary land use ordinance prohibiting future development south of I-15 will immediately be reevaluated. Now, that is a statement. That is not an action. That is just a statement that I felt necessary to read in for just a good broad understanding of this action item. And so with that, I'm going to lean on the council to see, maybe get your thoughts and feelings on where we want to go with this.
So Mayor, first off, with the first question I have is the biggest question raised with Whitehorse, et cetera, was new development. So does this mean those points that they were raised, since we're talking about new development, the development that's underway with them will be able to continue to go forward?
Scott, I'm going to ask you to speak to that, because much of what we have, there's items within this agenda that would be under that very question that you're asking. So Scott, could you kind of maybe paraphrase that and help me answer this question correctly? Maybe in a way that.
Hey, Mayor, that could be a probably, since it might be a legal question because of the ordinance that we're considering tonight, Sherilyn may be the one to maybe help us understand the language of the temporary land use ordinance and how it applies. Is that okay?
You bet, Sherilyn.
So the temporary land use ordinance at this point in time, certainly council can make adjustments to it, but the way that it's crafted at this point, it would prohibit new development applications, new land use applications, and it would prevent or prohibit any approvals for subdivisions. So if there's an application that's already been approved, it would not be impacted by this temporary land use ordinance. It's only new applications that are coming in that would be, the applications wouldn't be accepted.
Can I ask just a follow-up to that?
Yes.
Can you help put that in layman terms as far as the public comment was given and saying, okay, where's that line at? For instance, Franson, White Horse, I think Mike, there was a Mike in there somewhere. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Jake or Ann, yeah.
Yeah, just help us
So-
understand these public comments. Where are they at in the process and how does it apply to them?
Scott and Adam will have to speak to where they are in the process. I'm not certain. My understanding is the majority of them have already received approval for their projects, though. If they've received approvals for their projects already, they wouldn't fall under the new application for development. So those would not be impacted. Now, we do have some subdivisions. I believe there is a subdivision even on the agenda tonight that this would impact that because there would be an approval of a subdivision. This ordinance would say we are not approving any more subdivisions in that area. But as far as applications that have already come in and have been approved, those would not be impacted. And Scott and Adam, if you can clarify maybe where those particular individuals are in their projects, that might provide some clarity.
Adam, did you want to go first or me?
Without having them in front of me, I can't speak to where all of them are right now. So I'd have to look into that.
It's what I was going to say too, not that I'm trying to punt, but there are a lot of projects going on out there, and including several from the developers mentioned tonight. And so some of them I know are approved. Some of them I'm pretty sure are not. And there's some in various stages. So it's kind of hard for me without the list in front of me to report on that tonight. I think we could probably put a list like that together, but I hate to just rattle it off the cuff right now.
I would add, there was a lot of mention of reimbursements. The reimbursements are things that are contracted outside of their development. So when their infrastructure is put in, typically those are going to come back before council. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
but
you're right. In fact, those reimbursement agreements, I was a little puzzled and confused by a couple of the statements in the comments said we were waiting on reimbursement payments. And that's the first I'd heard that anyone was waiting on a payment. So I'm going to look into that and see what it is. I haven't heard from any of those developers that they were waiting on a payment. And so I don't know what that was about, but certainly if there's an agreement that's already been made with the council and they've put in the infrastructure, that's not this action tonight, whatever the action result is, wouldn't have any effect on that.
Ask us a follow-up question there, Scott, on that.
Sure.
So take White Horse, they're putting in some infrastructure down there, right? Let's say that they're halfway through. Does this moratorium stop them from being able to finish that and sell their lots and their units? Because that's where I could see maybe they're scared, is if all of a sudden they go, why am I going to finish this infrastructure if, I got 50% of my cost into it? Why am I going to finish it off if I can't sell those units or develop that property? So do they already have those vested development rights if they're already doing these improvements?
Well, and I think that's like Sherilyn said, if they do, and then that's not going to affect them. I know, again, they've got some approvals. I don't remember off the top of my head which ones they have approved, but I can check on that. But if they're approved, this doesn't affect them, right, Sherilyn?
correct.
So this, to me, this is critical information that we need to have. Let me back up. This is critical information that I need to have in order to make a decision on this particular item tonight. So if White Horse, who has been a very good partner through us revamping our development code and all of that, not to mention, the Fransons and that, I really would appreciate knowing those things, knowing the status, understanding what kind of situation they would be in. What subdivisions of theirs have been approved, just like the question that Rob asked. I understand the need, and I think this is something that we have to get on 100%. I mean, short of the budget that is before us and having to take care of that in the time frame that we have, we've got to figure out a solution for Second South and all the developments going on down there. But I can't in good conscience make a call on this tonight without knowing where, you know, in particular, those who have taken the time to participate in the past and those who have offered public comment tonight, to be able to make a decision. And without saying, okay, we can allow this, we're going to have to get creative with the action tonight. That's just one council person's, but that's where I'm at.
I think for me and David, we talked about this on Friday a little bit. It'd be helpful to know what that percentage is that's been approved and kind of where those lines are drawn and what can our system handle capacity wise. So if we can only bring on 1,400 more units or I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, right? 2,000 units, whatever that is, how much do we have approved? And where does that line go to where it affects our level of service? That would be critical information. And then, you know, do these items here tonight, do they bump us over that mark where it's going to hurt the infrastructure of our current residents down there? But knowing what those numbers are would be very, very helpful. And then I think that a good lesson learned here is you plan for the worst and hope for the best. I know that in the past, you know, we really need to have a plan B. So, you know, even though the school district had decided not to move forward with the CRA, you know, we can't have our eggs in that basket. We need to have the other funding. I know we're looking to go to that loan with Utah State, but I don't think that should be our only option. I think at this point, it's like Apollo 13 walking in and dumping out everything on the table and saying, here's all of our funding options. And I'm assuming there's going to be a work session here shortly where we as the council can have a bigger discussion about what those options are. But I think it's hard. We talked about a potential moratorium being down here if we couldn't get the water since last fall. And none of us wanted to use the M word is kind of how we put it out there. But here we find ourselves, and I hate that because of the developers. And this kind of goes to the same thing we had, you know, a few weeks ago with MD Development. We give all this assurance and maybe assurance is the wrong word there, sure, and legally, but, you know, we give the intent that we're willing to move forward. We sign agreements. Everything's good. Everything's good. The other thing that worries me down here with that CRA not going through is the transportation infrastructure. If we don't have that flyover, what's that going to do? And so I see this as one of those things that we have to be to just because we put all those eggs in that CRA going through. And I don't know if we can go back to the school district and ask for an up and down vote or where that stands. And if they can see where we're at critically as a business partner, but those are just some of the thoughts I had in addition as well.
Councilmember Shelton, do you mind if I try to tackle maybe one or two of your questions? There's a lot packaged into that. The analysis and the modeling, and Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the analysis and the modeling that we've received from Horrocks Engineers says that our current demand south of the freeway consumes all of the capacity that we have. And therefore, any additional subdivisions that we approve, including the subdivisions on the agenda tonight, take us further beyond that capacity. And that is why the consideration of a moratorium is even before you. If we were not at that capacity, then we would have a different conversation. And that would be, hey, we're getting close to that capacity. We're not there yet, but we are there now with what's already approved on the books. And that is the analysis from Horrocks Engineers. Scott, you can chime in as well.
No, what you said is correct. We are at that capacity with what has been approved to date. And so there are not any extra units that are ready to be given without those lines getting built.
Now, to be clear, Horrocks has plugged in the subdivisions that have already been approved. In other words, if Red Pine or White Horse or whatever development Grant Leflin and Mike Horan are working on, if they're already approved and they've got infrastructure going in the ground and they're building units out there, even if they haven't started the unit, but it's in the plat that's already been approved, those units are included in Horrocks evaluation. In other words, they can move forward. And so it would not affect those developments. What it does affect is if somebody does not have a development, a subdivision or a plat approval. That's where it does affect. And that would include the plats on the agenda tonight.
So just
So that was, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to summarize. So we are at red line and basically we can't take any more new, and that's why we're throwing this on quick tonight. With that, I think it would be very helpful, at least for me as one council member, to see that on a visual map, to say this is where the approvals that have been calculated. These are the number of units that we anticipate going in. This is the area that hasn't been approved yet. And it helped for me be able to delineate a little bit where that's at. Is that something that staff could provide in a relatively soon manner in the next week or something like that?
Scott, is that a map that you could have prepared?
It is. I wouldn't be able to do it tonight, but soon, yes.
Like I said, within the next week, it didn't have to be tonight, but within the next week, I would like to visually see where that's at. I think it helped me have a better understanding of the magnitude of what we're looking at.
I would be able to do that.
And that was the question that was my initial question is how is this going to impact the developers that we heard from tonight and be able to understand the impact of that. Rob, I love the analogy of Apollo 13, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but if you remember in that same part, they brought all the smartest engineers they had together, and basically the requirement was to put a square peg into a round hole. And I really feel like that's kind of the situation we're in. There's so much going on down there, and we were counting on, the CRA to be able to go forward with that. I think we've got to find another solution fast. I think there's a lot of money invested and we have to be sensitive to that. And it's going to take a lot of work, certainly not inferring that I'm one of the smartest people around the table, but I'm just saying we are going to have to come together quickly and find either a funding solution or whether it's through impact fees or whatever it is, we've got to find a way to get this taken care of and make this moratorium as minimal, which I know everyone already feels is the case, but it's going to take full commitment. Like I say, second probably only to the budget and the things that are imminent at this time right now. But that map or that list or that information, however we choose to classify it from Scott and from Adam, will be critical for me to make any kind of decision.
So let me ask you this, Councilman Taylor, as far as a decision on like the funding mechanisms and things like that, is that the decision that maybe you're referring to, or is it the decision for tonight?
It's the decision for tonight. I think, there may be creative things we can do for those people who have been such great partners and I don't know. I just feel like I need to know the kind of situation that we're putting them in. I understand the reimbursement, and when we drop figures like 700,000, everyone pays attention, particularly now. If those things aren't necessarily the case and there's no holdup or there's no payment missing, then that's very helpful. But being able to understand of their subdivisions, which are included in the count from Horrocks and which is not, I feel like it's critical for me to make an educated decision on that tonight, Mayor.
Okay.
And if my fellow council members know that already and are comfortable, then they just need to talk me off the ledge, and I'm all ears.
I think Kevin had a comment, but Kevin, you're muted. I saw your mouth moving, but didn't hear anything.
Sorry, yeah, I put it back on mute sorry. I guess the question I have for Scott and David and everybody else, is there any question who's on which side of what I'm going to call the line? Who's already approved and who's not? Is there anybody that's a question mark?
I don't know that there's anybody who's a question mark. I just don't have that list committed to memory on each particular detail on each one. But I think
And,
if we look
and I
into it,
understand that, yeah.
we can probably answer each one. I just don't have that information ready to give to you tonight.
And I understand that, and I'm not asking that.
Okay.
I'm just asking, is there some way that we can tell who's on which side? And if there's a clear cut
And-
way to determine that, that's what I want to know.
And in accordance with this temporary land use regulation that's before you right now, if they have submitted their application for development, this does not impact them. So it's the only thing that it would impact would be subdivision approvals. This would say no more subdivision approvals. But as far as the building of the development that's already come through to council, if they have received approvals, that is that yes and no line right there.
There's no question who's who, correct?
If they've received that approval, this will not impact them.
Thank you. That's what I've thought. I just wanted to make sure.
From the comments that were given, I'm going to hypothesize that they were suggesting we draw a different line than the one that Sherilyn just described. And I don't know enough about the process and how this works that is there even possibly a different line that could be drawn? A different way to split who is over the line, as Kevin put it.
I would say one possibility, or at least as far as from where the developers are coming from, there may be developers who have purchased land, who have been working on putting together subdivision plats or site plans, but have not submitted those to the city yet. Those are probably the developers that are going to be the most concerned about this, because it is an open-ended regulation. We have not to exceed 6 months. I'm sure that's making many a bit concerned that this could be the full 6 months, and they're not quite in the door yet with their submission for their application for development.
Well, let me
But
ask
how you would draw that line differently, I don't know that you really could, because you don't know who has done what until they submit an application to the city.
Okay, well then let me ask a question, because maybe I'm not understanding the terminology that you're using. To me, the ones that are on our agenda tonight, they're submitted already, but they don't pass the approved standard, but they are submitted to me.
You're right. So some of the ones on tonight would be development applications that have already been submitted. What wouldn't, the language in here though is that it would be any subdivision approvals would be prohibited by this regulation.
Okay.
So no further subdivisions could be approved, but if there's a development application that's come in, then they would be vested already.
A development application that's So what's a development application in contrast to a subdivision?
Scott or Adam, can you clarify that a little bit? There's different steps in the development process.
Well, the thing that I might add as well, though, Sherilyn, is just to make sure that it's clear when you say they're vested, what do you mean by vested? So like if somebody has submitted an application, but they have not yet had their subdivision approved, they're vested in something, but that doesn't mean, but this would still affect them, right, Sherilyn?
This would affect the subdivision. They would be vested in the current ordinances, but this would prohibit the approval of their subdivision.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now with development, it's a little bit different. With the development applications, they would essentially have the right to move forward as long as they've submitted to the city. Because ultimately we're looking at this saying the ones that we know have already been plugged into this model. So this would not impact the developments that we already know because they've already submitted and we've accounted for them. At least that's my understanding, Scott.
Okay, and that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear what they're vested in, that, but this does still affect them.
Yes, for the subdivisions, this
So-
absolutely affects them.
So I'm not sure if I answered your question or I just clarified your answer for you.
Either way.
I think the real question is the capacity that we have. It doesn't matter where the developments are, what units they have in which area. But to me, it's the study that Horrocks has done, and they've told us that this is the point where we need to stop. And I don't know, I'm ready to do a motion if anybody doesn't have anything else to say.
Well, as you said that, Barbara, I was just thinking, and Rob mentioned this too, but we have known that we have been looking for a funding source, which we had been acquiring. And we had talked about that if this doesn't come through, we will need a moratorium. That it's not, John Sheese from Horrocks has been telling us, you're not gonna have enough water if you don't do it. You're not gonna have enough pressure if you don't do it. So I just want to put out there that it kills me though to put on a moratorium because I know what the developers are going through and this will kill some of them. And I mean that literally their projects will die. And I'm hoping that we can even just put it on. It's going to be next week, right? We'll figure something out next week. It'll be great. I mean,
Crystal ball will come through.
Yes.
Anyway,
I'm being overly optimistic, but it's a really, really tough one.
oh, definitely.
I don't know what to do for the residents that move in that don't have water and not have any sort of service that they are promised by living in the city.
Yeah.
There
You know
are,
what?
Can I just add one clarifying piece here?
Yeah.
And that is, if council chooses to move forward with this temporary land use regulation tonight, there's nothing that says, you know, if we go back, and I know there's some concern about who this impacts and where they're at in their development, and I know Councilman Shelton wants a little bit more of a breakdown and maybe perhaps to see a map, and those can all be things that are accomplished. Perhaps it's something that we move forward with this tonight, get some of those answered and come back at the next council meeting. And if there's a decision to tighten or loosen this land use regulation, that can be done at the next meeting. If there's kind of a realization, oh, we don't quite need this tight of a rope, or we can loosen it a little bit. We have some wiggle room there. If those are discovered, then certainly in 2 weeks we come back and and revise it at that point in time, you have that ability.
And I'm definitely in favor of that. I think we should do everything we can to follow through and find resources that will help. But I think we have just as much, if not more, responsibility to the residents and the promised residents as we do to other people. We need to be responsible to them.
Could I just, if I could just add, so, we've talked a lot about this CRA. We've spent a lot of time, we put a lot of money into our consultant. And having met with the leadership, with administration, there is, I'm seconding what I've already read. There is no doubt in my mind that the uncertainty of their funding sources and of the day of the COVID and things has made them to just pause. And so it's made me feel like we need to pause and based upon not having that partner. But when I say pause, we say 6 months. I'm committed to, and I know this council has done a lot of work. We've had long sessions. We've had multiple sessions during a week, and we can do them even from our homes now. And we can work some things out. It is going to take a very creative path to be able to determine this, but I'm certain if there's a council that can do it and a group of people and staff, we will be able to do that, along with tackling the current budget that we have with all the other things that COVID has kind of just infused into our society. And so I'm not saying we can just throw it all on a pandemic, but I do believe strongly that without it, I think that we would have had some very clear answers way before now. The fact that one of our major partners is the districts. They had this plan, and they've had a lot on their plate to try to deal with themselves, and then they have the budgets, the things that we're going through, and it's just given them reason to pause. And so some might say we waited till the last minute. This was not a last minute decision. We got word as of late, and it caused us to kind of react today. So
I think I would just maybe add to that, Mayor. I agree of looking for that path, but I'm going to say that this is such a critical issue that we can't rely on one path. So I hope that we come up with 2 or 3 paths and we work all options at the same time and see which one sifts to the surface the first. I think we have a very delicate power we have to be careful of. And that's in any business model. People are making decisions, big financial decisions based on what we do. So when we say, hey, it's not a big deal just to put this on there and then quickly lift it if we find a solution in a week or two, what we do tonight signals to them, and they have to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And they're going to be making business decisions based upon that. I take a look at it, and the reason for the map and where I want to see things is where it's not a question of running out of water. It's the question of how well that water is going to be delivered and at what pressure rate is my understanding of that.
Right.
And so for me, I look at it, are all these units going to be built at the exact same time and turned on at the exact same time? Or do we actually have a little bit of time with what's already been approved in the queue from what Horrocks has already said, that, hey, those units aren't going to turn on for 3 to 4 months. And they're all not going to turn on at the same time because they're all at different stages. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to play favorites with what developer or not, but trying to say this hard, fast moratorium, is that something we have to do now? Or do we have maybe 3-4 more weeks where we could put together some creative financing options and go out there? I also feel really bad because I'm guessing a lot of these developers that are on the agenda tonight were put off because of COVID. And they weren't able to go to planning commission and be able to come to tonight. And now because of that, all of a sudden their business model comes to a halt. So I'm wondering if we put a little bit of a leeway or a grace period in there, knowing we're at capacity, but maybe if we go over just a little bit, it's not going to put us at a critical issue that no one in the city is going to be able to get the water. So those are the questions going through my mind right now.
I think, sorry,
Go ahead,
Council.
Mayor.
I think as far as COVID, we missed one meeting. We missed one planning commission, and it was right on that threshold on, I think, the 30th of March, which kind of pushed one meeting back. And then we kind of got our legs underneath us and went through and got this Zoom. So, but yes, it did delay things for a couple weeks right through that period of time. So, Councilman Taylor.
Yeah, that was my exact thought in wanting to know where we were on those. So I don't know what the difference between that and a map is, but I think Councilman Shelton and I might be talking about the same things, because depending on where they are and what's been approved, that's what I'm talking. It's a bit of a balancing act. I do not want to have anyone come into the city under the pretense that they are going to get water and we have oversold or we have done whatever. I am absolutely vehemently opposed to that. But I also think we are at a time where we're going to have to be creative. And so we look at when those particular developments are coming online. And I don't want to reiterate exactly what Rob said, but that's why I'm asking, that's why I'm saying it's difficult for me to make a decision on this, because I believe if we had a little better idea of that and could gauge that a little bit more, then, I mean, if we think we can come up with a solution in 3 months, then fantastic. And I know that we're going to be working towards that, because none of us are anti-building. We are simply trying to take our responsibility to the services that we provide to people, especially a life-giving service like water. We have to regulate that. We have to make sure that we don't overspend. And so that was my question. If we knew that information for tonight, then perhaps there could be some creative way that we could do that that would allow for that. That's the only thing I'm saying. And that's probably why I'm not in favor of going forward with this tonight. I would rather table this, but I would just like to know. I mean, that's information that in my mind is completely critical. And so.
Councilmember Taylor, could I? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think, you know, for the near future, we're going to have a lot of comments regarding COVID. And I wish I could believe that purely the school district, that was the reason, but I don't. And, you know, I get how these things go, but we're in a critical spot, and I just don't think that's something that we can count on going forward. And we really need to be creative in coming up with something. So go ahead, David.
I'd like to just point out in Horrocks' letter that they sent to the city, this is on the packet, page 31, about the 4th paragraph down, actually starting in the 3rd paragraph. It says, if all of the developments I have reviewed are constructed, and this is John Sheese, who models our water system. So he plugs in subdivision by subdivision, every connection into the water model. If they are, all of them that I have reviewed are constructed in American Fork City and no major improvements are made to the water system, many areas of the water system will experience velocities higher than 7 feet per second during peak day and 10 feet per second during peak hour. And this is the area down on the south side of the freeway where those velocities get very high. This is well above any actual or implied national, state, or city design standard, let alone any best engineering practice. So what John's saying here is we're well beyond it already. There's not an excess capacity. We don't have 3 more weeks. We don't have another month. We don't have 3 more subdivisions or 2 more subdivisions to go before we hit that number. We're already there. Then he says there are several additional developments that are somewhere in the city design review process, representing 750 to 1,250 connections to the water system that are not far enough along for him to review yet. The reason why he can't review them is because their subdivisions haven't been approved yet, but they're somewhere in the process. If all of these were constructed, velocities over 8 feet per second in the peak day and 13 feet per second in peak hour would be the result. And so if we continue to add more subdivisions, it's possible to do that regardless of where they are in that area. It just increases the potential that we are going to have an issue with those water lines down there. Because when those velocities get so high, that's what causes the water system to fail. And so John's recommendation here is you've already crossed the line with what he's already modeled. Now, I understand we can get a map of what John's already stuck in the model. We can pinpoint where those are. But John is saying, I've already plugged those in and you're already beyond the point you should be. So there's just not an excess capacity.
So question then, David, if I could, what were we doing then improving these if we're already over it? When was 200 South going to be built with the CRA?
Yeah.
And how does that timeline match up with this letter that's been written?
Yeah. So as we have been approving these the entire time, and Scott, I recall, has stood up in city council meeting and said, hey, based on the fact that we are going to be building this line and we are in design on 200 South right now, then that's okay if we approve these subdivisions, knowing that that line is coming, and we would construct that line simultaneously that these additional connections are being made. But Scott had that caveat every time we were approving these subdivisions for the last several months. The intention was to be finalized with our 200 South plans by May or June of this year and be in construction by the end of the year. If that were to be the case, if we can get into construction this year, then I think we're still okay, because it will take time for these subdivisions who get approved to then get their improvements installed within their subdivision and then get buildings erected, which would need the water system. So there is some lag time there. The issue right now is we don't know if those funding sources are going to be as secure as what we thought they were.
And that's why I went back to, in January, said we need a plan B.
And we talked about a plan B. We talked about a plan B actually a year and a half ago. I think you emailed me, Councilmember Shelton, and I replied to that email. And the plan B was to do that as a city project, but the impact fees would be reallocated. In other words, development would have to pay more. And right now with the CRA, the utilities in 200 South were estimated to be funded 80% by tax increment. Plan B is to have development pay their fair share and to increase the impact fees for that line and to pay for those improvements that way. And we had that conversation probably about a year and a half ago, but.
There's been a lot of conversations over the last year and a half. I guess
Sure.
I'm just a little frustrated because, again, we did put all our eggs in that one basket, and that's what's put us here. But trying to think about where to go forward, the thing that's frustrating to me right now is there's a pipeline of projects.
Sure.
And I'm trying to ascertain what's in that pipeline. And yes, if everything's approved, but not everyone's in the same phase of construction with that, right? If the CRA was still going to happen, we don't even have the design for 200 South back yet. We're hoping June to have that back, right? That was kind of the target deadline. So we were maybe a year out from these 200 South water lines being put in. I'm just trying to see where's that critical line going to be drawn and where's it at? Because I'm very sympathetic to these developers who have made multi-million-dollar decisions based on us standing up and people representing that this is going to happen. And now it's not. Understanding that nothing is an assurance that's out there, right? There's a risk with everything, but I just want to be very careful before we throw this behind it and know exactly where that line is at. That's where I want it's in the pipeline. Where are we at on those different phases and those different stages?
But that really doesn't have an impact on your vote, Rob, right? Because we're past that point now. So our
Well, I think-
understanding will be greater, but that doesn't make a difference for a vote tonight. I don't want to be the only person that's holding this up. So if we need to vote and go forward, we need to go vote and go forward. It sounds to me like we're past that point now.
Well, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I think there's other options that we have out there. If we can buy ourselves, if the infrastructure is not even being designed for another month to month and a half, right? To be finished coming out of design. Does that give us enough time to be able to pull together the minimum amount that we need to be able to keep the project going forward? When you throw out there and you say 6-month moratorium, if that was your business, what are you doing all of a sudden? Especially during a COVID-19 experience. That has
Rob,
a huge shock.
I do have to, I'm a little bit confused because I do remember in January, us being in a work session and you pushing for a moratorium because you knew about this water. And I asked for a little bit more time to see if we could get for the CRA. And that's where I remember us coming from.
Well, and I'm doing that because we had no plan B. But the hard thing is right now, you look at these developers that are down there. I rather would have done it in January, back when they're not hitting right at the peak of their building season, trying to be able to go in. So they had the time to be able to reallocate their resources or their plans or things of that nature.
And at that time, we all agreed, okay, a few more weeks for the CRA and then a moratorium.
And that was in January, a few more weeks, and here we are.
Well, I think it was, what did we say, 3 months or something?
Right.
Do you recall?
So I guess it's just a frustrating point to be able to be in, but I'm looking at it. I'm very sympathetic to the comments that are being made out there. I ran into a developer that's in that area on Sunday and had a very frank conversation about how frustrated they are with lots of stuff that's going on down there in that TOD. We've put a moratorium down there before, right? When we were redoing things, and then we came down and we added more commercial that had to be put in and a whole bunch of different stuff. And I just think we have to really realize the power we hold and the effect that that has on business.
Well, for me, I'm looking at it like I am sympathetic too, because I think if I were a developer, I'm working in good faith under some certain assumptions, not an assumption that I'm going to be stopped. And that is why for me, it's really difficult to put on a moratorium. And I don't know what else to do because I cannot allow development, regardless of how we got there or where we are going forward. I cannot allow development to go in without water.
Well, it's not going to go in without water, right? It will go in with water. It's just the amount of the level of service of that delivery of that water.
Right.
Yeah,
and
hindsight's.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Stacy. No, Stacy, go ahead.
I was just saying that John C says it's so bad that it could actually destroy the system, wear and tear on the system, damage the pipes. That's what I'm reading.
I think hindsight's 20/20, and it's getting better every day. And all this discussion isn't. We're not getting closer to where we need to be. So we need to vote on. We need to vote on this.
And I would agree. And I would just say this. I think that there's been a lot of. And when I say sympathy, we all are sympathetic to the investment. I would say that we've all been trying to work towards this, and it kind of got a little bit derailed right at the end. Did we put all our eggs in one basket? Maybe, but I think we went in with our eyes open, kind of knowing and really with great anticipation, and then just something didn't come to fruition, one of the major funding partners. But again, I'm going to just lean back on what I know about this council and our ability to work. I don't think it does any good to throw stones. And I'm not saying, I think we're a collective team. And then there's frustration. I don't know where the frustrations completely are, if they're with each other as far as staff, engineering, is this with our partners, if I had a better idea of this or that, but we are where we are today. And we need to make a decision based upon what we know today. Again, with the idea that this group will work hard and we will come up with an option. We've done it before. And so if there's no other things to add, I would like to kind of see where this is heading with any kind of a motion, and we can kind of come to some finality with this and move forward.
I thought that Barbara was ready to make a motion.
Can we see the motion on the screen?
Look
I
at
would
the
just-
date on that letter, by the way. That letter was back in February.
I definitely agree with what the mayor said, that we need to work together to find a solution to help everyone. I am firmly committed to that, but I'm also firmly committed to our responsibility. So I move to adopt an ordinance establishing a temporary land use regulation pursuant to Utah Code 10-9A-504, prohibiting the filing of new development application and a subdivision approval for land south of State Road 145, Pioneer Crossing, and southwest of Interstate 15 for a period not to exceed 6 months.
Second.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Christiansen, a second by Councilmember Barnes. Any further discussion?
I want us to all be, I'm going to be voting for this, but I want us to all remember what Sherilyn said. So if there is something creative that can be done in the next meeting, we can certainly, make any changes that are needed. I'm all for that. I have the same conviction in terms of the services we provide and everything else, but I also know that sometimes, and this is not pointing a finger at anyone, sometimes we're our own worst enemies, including the council members on this, and myself leading the pack in that. So I'm going to be anxious to see what we can do. So thank you for that input, Sherilyn.
I would agree with those comments. The one thing that we haven't really talked about, at least in my mind, is, and I probably am going to sidetrack this, but what I'm thinking of, if we don't do it, then what kind of a mess do we start to create? We've got to do it at some time. We've talked about it for months, and I think is just probably time to do something. So that's why I seconded.
So I have a motion and a second, and I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Can I get a point of clarification? Sorry, there wasn't an opportunity for discussion after the motion and second. David, will we still be able to get that information that we requested this week?
Yeah, we will work on the information that John has in the model so that we know exactly what's in the model and what's not in the model.
And we'll get that at the council level then.
Yeah, we'll send that to you.
Okay. Then my vote is yes.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Yes, but I have a pit in my stomach right now.
as do I.
We all
So do
do.
I, literal.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye. And I just vomited in my mouth.
Little
Aye.
too much information.
item number 3 is a review and action on a water banking agreement with ABF Real Estate LLC. Scott, can you give us a little information on this?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, this is a typical water banking agreement that we've presented quite a few to you. This is an individual who has some water rights, wants to bank them with the city. It's a good way for them to secure the water. They get the credits for it, we get the water. So it's really a win-win, and it's a great system, I think, that we have in place. So with that, I recommend approval, and if you have any questions, I'll answer them.
I move to authorize the city to sign the water banking agreement for water rights with ABF Real Estate LLC.
A motion by
Second.
Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember Taylor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Item number 4 is a review and action on a resolution approving the land use map amendment located at 700 North, 900 West from the residential low density to the professional office designation. Adam, I think you could summarize up this real quick for us. This went to the planning commission and they did not like it real well, it looked like, so.
Thank you, Mayor. These two items, 4 and 5, this one is the land use map amendment. The one that follows is the zone map amendment. This is for that northeast corner of 7th North and 9th West. The Planning Commission felt that any commercial development along that corridor should be south of 900 West. It's kind of been
700.
the view for
North,
the
yeah.
last number of years. And so the Planning Commission recommended against both the land use and the zone map amendments. Again, the reason that they felt that 7th North should be that hard line with that encroachment.
All right, there was a lot of public comment, all pretty much every one of them were in favor of not having the planning commission support this. I'm sure you read that, so.
Yeah, those, we included those comments in your packet of materials tonight.
Okay. If there's no questions, I would entertain a
Just
motion.
comment, Adam, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see a single comment that was in favor of this. All the ones I
Correct.
read were against it. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion then. I got to get this thing out of the way so I can read it. Oh, shoot. Thank you. There we go. I move to deny the resolution approving a land use map amendment located at 700 North, 900 West from the residential low density to the professional office designation.
All right, have a
Second.
motion by
Second.
Councilmember Barnes, second by Councilmember Taylor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Item number 5 is like unto it, a review and action on an ordinance approving a zone map amendment located at 700 North, 900 West from the RA5 to the R1 12,000 zone to the PO professional office designation.
I move to deny the ordinance approving a zone map amendment located at 700 North, 900 West from the RA5 and R112 zones to the PO1 professional office designation.
I have a motion by Councilmember Christiansen,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Shelton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right, item number 7A. Review and action on an ordinance adopting AFPD South Plat A Conservation PUD located in the area of 900 West, 620 South in the PR3 residential zone. Sherilyn, going to ask if you, based upon our earlier action, what might be options available for the following items, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Mayor, if I could just jump in really quick, we didn't cover item 6.
Oh, I skipped right over it. Okay, I'm gonna back up. Sorry. Item number 6, a review and action on an ordinance approving a zone map amendment from the RA5 residential agriculture and PR3 planned residential zone to the R1 9,000 residential zone located in the area of 508 South, Stores Avenue. Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about that one? I'm sorry.
So, oh, that's okay. This one actually is tied with an item under number 7. But this is a zone change. This is not the subdivision application, but the applicant, the property owner would like to change the zone to the R19 in anticipation of a subdivision of that property. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this zone map amendment. It is in line with the underlying land use designation, so they did recommend approval of that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Adam?
I move to adopt the ordinance approving a zone map amendment from the RA5 residential agricultural and the PR3 planned residential zone to the R19 residential zone located in the area of 508 South Stores Avenue.
I have a motion by Councilmember Christiansen.
I'll second.
Second, who is that second? Oh, Councilmember Taylor.
Taylor.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, sorry I jumped ahead. Thank you for reminding me, Adam.
No problem.
All right, item number 7A, as stated earlier, review and action on an ordinance adopting AFPD South Plat A Conservation PUD located in the area of 900 West, 620 South in the PR 3.0 residential zone. I might suggest that through this that we look at, I think the best option for the applicant is to table. Would you agree to that, Sherilyn?
For the applicant, so these would all be subdivisions that would be halted by the prior action of council. There is the option of denial, but if you deny them, they have to start back over. If you table them, they remain vested. They do not have to start the application process. It's a benefit to them to remain vested in the current ordinances as they are.
All right. Can you scroll up just a little bit, Vendelin?
Hey, Councilmember Barnes, were you trying to make a comment?
You're muted.
Oh, doggone, I thought I had it off. Sorry. Thought I'd left it off. Item D, sorry, as in David. Doesn't seem to fit with the others because that's an industrial thing. It's not a residential development. So I just want to make sure if I'm understanding that or not, in case we kind of do things as a group.
Adam, if you can clarify, I believe these are all subdivisions, correct?
Yes, that's still a subdivision, and it's south of the freeway.
So it's in the zone, even though it's an industrial, you're still counting it as a subdivision.
The ordinance that was enacted specifically calls out subdivisions. It doesn't
Right.
specify a zone.
And you're counting this as a subdivision. Okay.
All right. Council, where would you like to go with this?
Can we table all of them as a group? Because they're all in the same.
Sherilyn, I'm going to let you
Yes.
help me decide that.
It would be a very lengthy motion, but to move to table those action items, yeah.
Oh, well, if it might be
Well,
simpler than to do each one separately.
Could
I'd rather do that. if
Could
it's
we not?
clear.
Could we not state the number on the agenda? Items, 7A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
As long as Terry has it clear in the minutes, we're okay.
Okay.
If you did a motion that said 7A, the AFPD South Plat A Conservation PUD, B, the plats A, you could list them all at once, but identify what plat goes with A, B, C, D.
That would be my preference for the motion, just for clarity's sake.
Okay, I'm willing to try to make a motion to table then. Okay, I move to table the following subdivisions. AFPD, based on our agenda, item number 7A, AFPD South Plat A Conservation PUD. Item B, Plat A, B, C, and A, B, and C of the AF10 combined project. Item C, Dixie Farms Plats E1, E2, F1, and F2. Item D, Lakeland Industrial Park. Item E, Stone Creek Plat D, Conservation PUD. Item F, Edgewater North Subdivision. Item G, the Yard Plat A Subdivision. And that's it.
I have a motion by
second it.
Councilmember Carroll. Second by Councilmember Christiansen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on 7A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor,
Aye.
Right. Item number 8 is a review and action on an ordinance approving amendments to section 15.01.1410 of the American Fork City Code relating to culinary water service connections. Scott, I think we're down to the 1 inch now.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is down to the 1 inch. This is not a new detail. This is clarifying a lot of things that really weren't specified very well in the old detail. So the detail itself, what is the layout, is not changed. But there were a lot of parts listed or that were not called out on the old detail. A lot of things that were not clear. There'd be a picture, but it didn't really explain what was going on. So what you see here are a lot of extra things that we have added to make it crystal clear, make it easier for everyone to understand what's going on and what the parts are, what needs to be done for this meter. So with that, I recommend approval and ready to answer any questions you may have.
I don't know what's under the ground, but I just uncovered one of these in Lehigh City, something very similar on a project. And this was on their PI system, actually. So anyway.
Mayor, I'd move to adopt the ordinance approving amendments to section 15.01.1410 relating to culinary water service connection.
I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Barnes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Got it. Councilmember Shelton.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Item number 9 is review and action on a resolution adopting the American Fork City Municipal Wastewater Planning Program for 2019. Thought it was a very well prepared report by Ashton and team. Any questions? Ashton's not here, so Scott, we'll turn to you if there's any questions.
I had one, but I probably am not going to be able to find it in time. So maybe I'll just find it and call Scott later. There was just one little nitpicky thing. I just will let it go.
Mayor, I'd move we approve the resolution adopting American Fork City Municipal Wastewater Planning Program for 2019.
A motion by Councilmember Taylor,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Shelton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen,
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton,
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right, item number 10. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilmember Shelton, second by Councilmember Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the help with the technology tonight again, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Right.